Welcome back to Journeymen, brought to you by the good folks at the DraftKings Network and Meadowlark Media. I'm Andrew Hawkins, 7-year NFL veteran, one-time Oscar winner, and 3-time dad. Joined by my guy, legendary basketball insider, analyst, journalist, and star of basketball Illuminati, Amin Elhassan. Today we're going to talk the Lakers getting swept, LeBron's potential retirement, and the future of the NBA and the NFL. Let's get into it. I mean, my Lakers got swept, dog.
Yeah.
That hurt. I mean, it hurt. It hurt like I was back to being a kid again. I don't know. I felt like I wanted it so bad. I felt like I was behaving all week. I felt like even down 0-3, I felt like this is a perfect setup for the LeBron last dance. Make history.
See,
win the series, and they lost it, man. I'm very sad.
Man, like you can't think of life like a fairy tale. You can't, and this is how the most amazing comeback ever starts.
Like, sports, man. That's what you hope for. You got to have that unrealistic hope and confidence that what's going to happen is the fairy tale ending. You know what I'm saying? But then LeBron in the post game teases retirement. I don't. You don't think it's real? All right, here we go,
man. Like
this might be another bad Amin LeBron take.
Yeah.
Are you willing to go into this?
I'm with it, man. I'm with it.
So you don't think he's retiring?
No, not a chance.
Reasons. Give me good reasons why he would not retire.
Well, let's start with he said I'm better than 95% of the NBA right now.
That is also true though.
I'm not.
It's a fact. That's
But that's what I'm saying. Like the idea of being in the top 5%. Right, top 5% of roughly 500 guys. Right, that's what is that like?
I don't know. My math isn't there. What's 95% of 400?
10% of 500. 10% of 500 is 50. So the top 5% means the top 25 in the league.
Yeah,
dog. That's an all-star.
That is.
Like he's not retiring.
He's not retiring. But you don't think, as someone who has always been a pioneer in what he does and the way he's handled his superstar status and stardom in the NBA, you don't think he could change the trend of all the great basketball players that we know and love and say, I'm going to go out on top while I'm still the guy?
This ain't on top.
That's on top. That ain't on top.
Getting swept.
Oh,
getting
he's 39
No, man.
years old,
can't
bro.
Walk out, you can't walk out like after you got your ass beat. Like if they had lost in 6.
He dropped 40.
I know, but if they had lost in 6 or something, like make it respectable. To get swept, and you didn't get swept by like the Warriors at their peak or whatever. Like you got swept by like the Denver Nuggets, which like great team, and Jokic is an amazing generational talent, but America does not recognize it as such, right? America's so dumb. They went into the series like Lakers gonna win. Like that's how dumb America is. So for LeBron to have his legacy ended by something lesser than an absolute cultural phenomenon can't happen. And then the final reason, he done told you want to play with Bronny, man. How many?
But that might not be Bronny's plan though. Man, I feel like he wants to play with Bronny. I feel like as Bronny in that shadow of LBJ, he's probably like, yo, Pop, man, I don't. That ain't what I want. And I think I've heard LeBron say recently, like, yo, that's his dream. That's not Bronny's dream. And that's dad code. I'm a dad. And my son, that's code for, you know what? Lil man might not exactly want it the way that I want it. And I don't want to put that pressure on him.
I'm going to say this right now. You never had to do something that your dad wanted you to do that you ain't like. Everyone's like, "Oh, but that's Bronny's dream." You think his dad cares? Like, man, shut up before I get the belt. You know,
that's a black dad. He don't give a damn what his son thinks. All right, so you don't even want to play the game of if this is LeBron's last game.
Nah, this is like I'm gonna play the game of this is LeBron's playbook. LeBron, hey, LeBron, we about to start talking about something else. A word? I might retire. Like that's the LeBron. Like. He's gonna throw it out there. I think we talk about him.
I think he's really considering it. I think it's genuine. I don't think he's made a decision. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he actually retired.
I'll allow for this is probably the first time he's ever thought about, damn, I don't know how much more of this I want to do.
It looked like it hurt, man.
But like to me, it was to me it felt two things. One, like a little like, hey Lakers, get together. I need help. That, and B, it's LeBron of like, oh, y'all ain't gonna finna talk about some other. Like, I will so dominate the topic of conversation, like in this league.
The more we talk about LeBron, the more I see why you won't be in the last Dance LeBron doc. It's starting to come forward. You know who did retire? My guy Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, man. Stay mellow.
Stay mellow. Mellow is one of those people who I felt like people truly a part of the basketball culture.
Yeah.
Had held in a lot higher regard than maybe some of the, overall basketball audience.
It's weird, man, because it's one of those things where Melo was a player that at the beginning of his career, early on, was probably held too high. Too high of regard, right? Like, people were trying to say, is LeBron or Carmelo? Like, no. It should have been obvious to everybody. Like, no, they're not on the same level. But he was talked about in that way. And then at some point, the market correction came and then went overly in the opposite direction, where it's like, oh, he's a bum. Well, he's not a bum. Just because he's not LeBron doesn't mean he's a bum. Like, there's an in-between there of greatness that's not quite as great as maybe the greatest.
I think it was at a time when there was still such a deep affinity for college basketball, and we got to see Carmelo go to Syracuse and do what he did there. And to your point, people were like, oh, you go to college and do that. That's better than coming from high school. And you're right. They probably over-indexed on like where he fit on the LeBron meter, which is a unrealistic and very unfair meter to judge anybody on.
That's the point, right? The point is, man, you can't say because I'm not LeBron, I'm somehow a failure. Like, this dude is the most decorated basketball player in U.S. Olympic history. This dude is one of the most diverse scorers. So, man, I thought we were going to talk about this today on LeBatard Show, but the idea is that what a lot of people don't understand is, well, he shot 44% from the field. But the number of things that Carmelo Anthony can do scoring-wise on a basketball court is almost unparalleled, because he's this weird combination of skilled, face the basket, shoot, step backs, dribbles, whatever, but also physical, take you on that block, punish you like he's a big man, off the glass, all that stuff. So there's a lot there where it's like, oh, there's a lot of nuance to his game that people miss if you're just like looking up his stats or whatever.
Right, and you're just reading off of the sports reference.
Right.
But what is he officially first team all no ring?
Damn, that's a long ass list, man.
It's a long list. You get 5. Matter of fact, let's do it. First team, all no ring.
All right. So
you got to start with the people that you know are on there.
Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley is the 4.
For sure, yeah.
He's playing the 4. All right, we got Charles Barkley on the 4. And I'm a basketball casual, so I threw this at you. You didn't prepare for this. And I did. I have a whole list of people to make myself sound smart.
Okay.
All right, so Charles Barkley at the 4. I like it. All right.
At point guard, I know a lot of people will say Stockton. I'm biased. I'm going to say Steve Nash.
Steve Nash over Chris Paul?
Yeah.
But I guess, do we count players who are still playing? Yeah, we have to, because it's not looking good for some guys.
No, man, you don't know.
You don't know. I'm just saying it's not looking great for Chris Paul right now. He's also 39. So
they turn on the red light for you, Chris.
All right, Steve Nash, Charles Barkley. Who else you got?
Okay, so this is where it gets tough, right? I want to say at center, I'm going Patrick Ewing. You know what? You might be right now that I think about it.
Ewing at center. So right now you got Barkley, Steve Nash, and Ewing.
I might cheat and have terrible spacing and say Karl Malone is my 4 and Barkley is my 3.
Oh, I can tell what era of basketball you fell in love. All right, here we go. We got Malone.
Oh, no, my bad.
Barkley. You basically are putting together the dream team.
Elgin Baylor.
Elgin Baylor.
Yeah. So, we got a lopsided roster here.
Yep. Okay, so Elgin Baylor, Karl Malone, Steve Nash, Pat Ewing, Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna share with Charles Barkley.
Give me your.
I'll give you my team, and then we'll say some of the names that I see on here.
Right.
So I'm gonna go Barkley.
I'm
gonna put Melo on my all no ring.
Yeah. I'm not mad at
that. AI.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. Yeah. Reggie. I guess you can't be redundant with the Melo Reggie, but
I would say Reggie is the least of the names we've said so far. Of all the names we've mentioned on both teams, Reggie would be the least of them.
I won't argue that. And then I'm gonna put Sean Kemp on there.
Nah, man.
We're playing small ball, man.
Nah. man.
2 fours. Shawn Kemp was my favorite player growing up, so there's never going to be a list.
Hey, man.
Of no rings where I'm not putting Shawn Kemp on there. You can kiss my ass.
Shawn Kemp. We all love Rain Man. And then he went to Cleveland, and he became Fat Man. He came back for that lockout. And, man, my man didn't see a donut that didn't have his name on it during that lockout.
Big shouts to the Rain Man. We won't let a mean slander.
I'm just saying.
Put a Rain on our first team. Other players on here that we didn't mention. Right. James Harden.
No.
Westbrook. Tracy McGrady. That's a good one.
I should.
Vince Carter.
Yeah.
Grant Hill.
Oh, yeah, man.
Did George Gervin win a ring?
No.
Gervin. Yeah, and I feel like you covered the rest of them.
Shout out. That's funny because I'm friends with both those guys, T-Mac and G. Like I feel bad now for not putting them on, but like to me, like Barkley and Malone. This is the funny thing to me, and this will show the generational divide right between us. There were legitimately in up until Tim Duncan. The conversation was, who's the greatest power forward of all time? Barkley and Malone. Those are the only two options.
Yeah.
Neither of them had a ring. But, unequivocally, everyone said these two guys are the greatest to ever play the position, which tells you a lot. Tells you, first of all, we lived in an era where you could be great and not have people but how much have you won?
What if your ring's gone?
So, and then obviously we got Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki all came in the league almost back to back to back years, right? Yeah. Garnett was 95, Duncan was 97, Dirk 98. And that kind of changed the power forward conversation. But yeah, man, those two guys, it had to be. Elgin Baylor is widely recognized as that's the greatest player to never win a title. That's what people say. This dude was doing Euro steps in the 60s, man. That's
that's facts.
Yeah, that's next level. You know how people say, "Oh man, I could play in the NBA in the 60s. Everyone's dribbling with one hand and look."
I say that.
But it's a lot of it is true. And then you watch Elgin Baylor and he's like, "Oh, that's what it looks like." Elgin Baylor looks like if you took a modern NBA player and you just send him back in time.
He was that top 5% in any generation.
Yeah. That's the
I definitely could have been a journeyman NBA player in the 60s though. I'll stand on that.
What's your other job gonna be then?
Journeyman, an accountant,
plumber. What you doing?
Exactly.
What's your trade?
Yeah, I'm a train conductor. So the Nuggets are going to the championship.
They are
now, and head coach Mike Malone. He's a little chatty in the media. He's very upset that the Nuggets aren't getting their respect. I'm not gonna lie. I'm starting to sour on him. He's starting to annoy me a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you.
That's who he is, man.
I feel like you don't got to tell the truth all the time. We get it. They're talking about LeBron, they're talking about Mike, but it's we want people to tell the truth. But then when you do it, it's come on, man, just be happy.
It's not even the truth, and it has nothing to do with us, believe it or not. Because I've called him out on this. I said, Coach, you talking about? Oh, it was the year when they had the best record, and he was going to be the coach at the All-Star game. And so I asked him, Coach, you always talking about they counted us out. Who's they?
Who are these people?
Who are you talking about? I'm on NBA radio multiple times a week. All we talk about is the Nuggets really got their shit together, right? And he looks at me Amin, come on, man. I'm doing a thing here, man.
Let me do my thing.
Yeah,
man.
He's it's nothing to do with facts or whatever. He does this because this is his way of motivating his team. He creates this boogeyman of they don't want us, they don't like us, whatever.
Age-old.
And that's how he riles up his locker room.
Man, I can't believe that still works in 2020.
It works like a charm. It works like a charm. These people want to be upset and offended.
Yeah.
Everyone, whether you're an athlete or you're just a person or a fan or just even a regular person, people want to be how dare they? How dare they? Such a powerful emotion. Yeah. It gets done, man. I'll show them.
All right. Well, they got a championship coming up. We will see if they can get it done. Boston head coach Joe Mazzulla has gone on record and said he's lost the locker room of the Celtics while in the middle of a series, mind you, which it got me thinking, man. I can think of so many times when coaches have lost the locker room, and there was a lot of conversation about it. When does that happen? How do you get it back? You don't get that back, number one. When you lose a locker room, that's that level is hard to come back from. And when you know that you've lost the locker room to the point where you've said it in the media, there's absolutely no way back.
You can't say that out loud.
You
man.
can't. You don't. Because now it's like, oh, now we all know it too. You at least want everybody to speculate. There's been times where coaches have lost the locker room on day one. There was
have you been in a situation like that?
I'm gonna put it out there. There was a coach who I love. He's a great dude. John DeFilippo was the offensive coordinator. This is the personal, not like a personal thing against me or him or whatever.
Right.
This is the reality of the situation I was in. The year before, I was with Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel. Now, 10 years later, we know those are offensive geniuses, right? I had my career year with them. Like, led the team in receiving. I'm 5'7".
Right.
Leading an NFL team in receiving, and I was balling the entire year until we put Johnny Manziel in there, and Johnny was all the way turned up every single day. But it was a great season. So the next year, they leave. They force their way out. John DeFilippo comes in again. I want to preface this again. He's a great dude. The first meeting we had, I just had twins, so I came up early.
Shout out to the twins.
Shout out to the twins. Shout out to Aubrey and Autumn Hawkins, man.
I have twins also.
Oh, shout out to Twin Dad Gang, man. So I come back to Cleveland to have my meeting with the new offensive coordinator. And we're in this meeting, and I don't know if it was like a personality or if it was a tactic. And I was kind of like, yo, it's great to meet you. And he's like, yeah, I've seen you on tape. And I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, I hope so. I led the team in receiving last year. And honestly, I came here to be a slot. Right. I didn't come here to be the lead of the team in receiving. But Josh Gordon got suspended, bunch of people, whatever, and I stepped up into it. I want to be a third receiver because you know why? I mean, you pay me like a third receiver. I don't want to do more work than you pay me for. Number one receivers make $10 to $15 to $1 million. I wasn't making that a year. Yeah. So I wasn't coming in there like, yo, you got to give me the rock. So he's like, yeah, I've seen you on tape. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. So what kind of offense are we going to run? Right. He's like, yeah, we're figuring it out. Like, so I want to watch you guys and really see. And I'm like, well, how do you see my role going? Well, I want to see you on tape. I don't want to promise anything. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Now, meanwhile, if I have a backup another year like I had the year before, I can go renegotiate my contract and probably go get another $10 to $15 million. I had another coach, Mark Trestman, that would always tell me, you got to approach football like lives are at stake because they are. This Autumn and Aubrey, them twins, what happens in their future is predicated on what these stats are, how you're going to use me. And again, he was just, I don't know if it was the coach thing of like trying to be non-committal or act like, make sure he knew he was in charge. We had signed Brian Hartline and Dwayne Bowe. Dwayne Bowe didn't go great. Hartline was great. But yeah, and from that day on, I left there. Somebody called me and said, what do you think? I said, buckle up. This going to be fun. Right. And
so, but like,
I might be a psychic because that went bad.
So he lost you in that moment. When did he lose everybody else? How long did it take?
Probably in that season, it was probably within the first couple of weeks.
Dude, I'm telling you, it happens fast.
But exactly.
It happens fast. It's not like people think it's like a gradual erosion. Like, nah, man, that happens fast.
It happens quick. You know right away. It's like love at first sight type of thing. Yeah. It's like you'll lose me at first sight.
Players know. It's weird, man. Players know when you're full of shit, man. They have like an incredible ability like to sniff it out very quickly. We had a head coach in Phoenix, Terry Porter, right? And Terry Porter came in. We had the number one offense in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Like every year in, year out. This is Amari Stoudemire, Steve Nash, 7 seconds or less. Mike D'Antoni has just left. And so, like, we bring in someone, hey, we need someone to coach us up on the defensive side. So Terry Porter comes in. And my buddy was on the staff. He comes back from, like, they had the coaches retreat. And I said, oh, so how's the retreat? And he said, we talked offense the whole time. I was like, oh, so, like, you guys are getting him up to speed on what we do here? I was like, no. We talked his offense. He came from Detroit, from Flip Saunders. And Flip Saunders had like a notoriously like dense playbook. And it was like everything took like 18 seconds to develop. And it was a series of screens and it would end up with like a mid-range jumper because it was like the Rip Hamilton playbook basically. Yep. So we're like, well, maybe like, no, he's just kind of like getting y'all familiar, the staff familiar, so that when you do introduce certain things, you guys aren't like, wait, we've never done this before. Mm-hmm. So we go to training camp and it's like, he starts training camp, with, and I'm like, okay, like day one, guys, give him some time. And then by like day 5, I'll never forget this. The guys were stretching, like, and Shaq in the middle of the stretch just starts singing loud. Remember that T-Pain song? I could put you in the mansion somewhere in Wisconsin.
Somewhere in Wisconsin.
Right. He started singing, no baloney, we miss Mike D'Antoni. Dog, we were in training camp. We didn't even get out of camp.
And it was already.
And like it just got worse and worse.
And once you lose Shaq, I mean, you lose everybody else.
Because this is one of my favorite things. I know we have this in the NBA. I'm pretty sure y'all have this in the NFL. The concept of the locker room lawyer. Like, this is the dude that, like, it might use his powers for good. He might use his powers for bad. But like, this dude has the ear of everybody, and if he's not on board with some shit, it gonna take a little bit of time before everybody's like, yeah, kind of like, I'm not on board with this either.
There's absolutely locker room lawyers, man. I might have been a locker room lawyer in a couple of my team. I might have been. I never used my powers for evil. In that situation, I didn't. No. I was like, okay, this is gonna mess my contract up, but I'll let everybody else come to their own decisions at some point. It was a tough season. Manziel, coaches end up getting fired, which is typically what happens when you suck. But there's been coaches, like, players know, to your point about sniffing out, is like, the rule of thumb is when a coach comes in and they start like coaching and talking about that doesn't matter, that's how you know they don't know what they're doing, right? So there's been other times when coaches have come in and are like, yo, tuck your shirt in. A tuck your shirt in, coach? There's nothing you can do for me out here. Leave me alone.
Urban Meyer.
We don't listen. Put your hood up. Take your earrings off. Like, those guys, come on, man. This is a professional sports league. If you're coaching me on tucking my shirt in, there's nothing you could do for me.
That's my whole thing. These guys all have mortgages, man. Like, you can't be out here like,
come on, man.
Like tuition.
We got bills to pay.
Yeah, like ain't nobody out here talking about like etiquette and stuff like that.
You're very unserious people when you're doing that. Joe Mazzulla also said he watches the movie The Town 4 times a week, the same movie. Which I want to know from you, what are the most rewatchable movies? For yourself, I mean.
Easily. Okay, so Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. I wouldn't be on my list, but it is a very rewatchable movie.
Like it is the most rewatchable movie of all time.
It's
like,
so long.
It's not even my favorite movie, but it's
rewatchable.
It's rewatchable. You can just keep watching it over because it's.
What else you got? I like Back to the Future. That's a good one.
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, a good one.
Let's see. I'm a big Star Wars person, so any of the Star Wars movies.
All Star Wars movies.
All Star Wars movies for me are very easy in that way. Okay. Indiana Jones is another one.
Indiana Jones.
You can't go wrong.
I can tell you was one of them kids that just kept it on TBS. your mom kept the TV on TBS all day long. I can tell that because all the marathons, man, you was locked in.
They get the 3 in a row. Yeah, they get you all of them at once. Paid in Full.
Paid in Full is a good
Very rewatchable movie.
Those are all good movies.
You know what I found as I think about it? You know what makes for a great rewatchable movie? If it's a period piece.
Period piece.
Like so think about all the movies I didn't even think about it until I just named them all. Back to the Future, set in the 50s, right? Like Goodfellas is set in like the 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah, my list would probably be something like that too.
Paid in Full, early, in the 80s, right? Like they're all kind of like this isn't happening right now.
Right. I like Life, which is a period
piece.
I like Shawshank Redemption.
Period piece. Yep.
Hangover's not a period piece, but it's hilarious. Harold and Kumar, I probably watched that a million times. Superbad.
Yeah.
I'm a comedy guy.
So all the like old school Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, Walk Hard, like all them for sure.
Walk Hard. Underrated. Walk Hard.
Dude.
One of the most underrated comedies. Walk Hard and Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins with Martin Lawrence. 2 of my most underrated comedies, movies.
It was Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins, the one with the funeral?
Yes. Yeah. And he comes home and it's like,
that one.
You're tripping. Mike Epps, that hilarious, man.
There's a couple of people that this is the most controversial take in Journeyman history. I'm going to say this right now. Martin Lawrence doesn't do it for me, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. We can move on from that. You might not even be invited back here.
Particularly Martin Lawrence movies that don't have someone else to carry it.
Go watch Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins.
Life, cool, because Eddie's carrying it. So, he can do
Blue Streak? You don't like Blue Streak?
Nah, man.
Wow, these are terrible takes, bro. Blue Streak is hilarious, objectively. Whether you like him or not.
I like
Life is hilarious.
I like Dave Chappelle and Blue Streak, but like that's about it.
Dave Chappelle had like 6 lines, my dude.
That's why I didn't like Blue Streak.
That's wild. That's wild. All right, next topic. WNBA. There's been some controversy around the WNBA because they had roster cutdowns at the beginning. They cut like names we know, recent lottery picks.
Yep.
Should the WNBA expand? And if not, what is like the next evolution of the league? Like, how do they take it? How does this league go to the next step? Because every league continues to evolve, right? Like, what is the WNBA's next thing?
So all right. Now I'm gonna put on my David Sampson like cruel businessman hat, right?
Oh shoot. Yeah.
I'm gonna say this like this. Like, a big push has been we want higher salaries in the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can't also want more jobs. Which one is it? Y'all want to get paid more, or do you want more people working here? But it can't be both.
It can't be both.
Like not at a pace that you're gonna feel comfortable with, right?
Okay.
So they fought very hard to get their split of the basketball-related income, which is how this money gets divided, basically, to get it up. It's still very low. I don't know, I think it's like 25% or something like that. But that's a huge improvement over where it was. And they're working on that. But, like, basically the way money gets distributed in sports leagues that are cap governed is we have our sport-related income. We agree on it. We agree on whatever the split is. They take that split. So in the case of the NBA, for instance, 50%. You take the 50% of all the money they made off of tickets, off of jersey sales, off of concessions, park, and all that stuff. Split it in half, divided by 30. That's your salary cap. Mm-hmm. That's how we got to where we get to, right? Same thing in the NFL, whatever that split is, right? The WNBA, their split isn't great. It's not a 50-50 split. It's lower. Mm-hmm. So basically, if we take a quarter, 25%, take that money, divide it over however many WNBA teams, boom, that's your salary cap. That's the amount of money they're spending on players total. Mm. So the moment you say, we need more people in here, you're like, all right, so we're taking this one slice, this one pizza pie, and we're cutting it even smaller because more people are coming in and wanting a slice. Mm. Which one do you want?
Yeah. No, it's tough, and you're right. I played in the CFL before I went to the NFL, and that was also a very veteran league because it takes a while to learn the game, and then also the veterans make just as much as the rookies, right? And honestly, it's like, why would we pay for a younger, more inexperienced player when this person knows the game? And I think that's the same problem the WNBA have. So you got to pay the rookies, pay the young people like the NFL did, and then it's going to wash the vets out, which isn't great for old guys like me, but it's the reality.
And again, if you think about what a players association does, it's bargaining on behalf of the people who are here right now. Yeah. They don't care about them young MFers over there, like in college, making their NIL money. I'm here for the people who are like the votes, the people who are voting on the rank and file are right now. So
that's a great point, and I want to get into where other evolution in professional sports leagues are going. All right, speaking of evolution of sports leagues, I'm going to tell you where I think the NFL and the NBA are going. This might be in 100 years. Mm-hmm. All right, and it's going to sound crazy.
Okay.
But what's going to happen is someone's going to save this audio. They're going to play it.
They're going to play it 100
on
years from now.
Whatever the Twitter version is 100 years from now and be like, damn, this dude was a philosopher. We'll start with the NBA. The NBA will be a co-ed basketball league.
Ain't gonna happen.
It's going to be rosters of both women and men. In the 4 quarters, quarter one will be 4 women and 1 man on the court.
Like co-ed league rules.
Quarter 2 will be 3 men, 2 women. Quarter 4 will be 4 men, 1 woman. And then the last one will be 3 women and 2 men. And they'll have to make substitutions based on that quota.
Right.
And the league will merge. This is going to be, when basketball is at its biggest, it's going to be the biggest sport in America. And when that happens, that's what's going to be the NBA.
I don't see it.
All right.
Let me hear what the NFL.
The thing about being a visionary, is that no one else typically sees it, you know? This is, I'm okay with living that reality.
You going to start wearing turtlenecks now? Like,
you know what I'm saying? I'm a visionary. Here's the NFL. Are you ready for what the future is going to look like? I'm giving you a glimpse.
I can't wait. I want to hear this one, yeah.
The NFL will be controlled by gamers. Gamers will be NFL players.
You knew
Here's how
about
it's going to
this?
work.
I'm looking at the producer, Carl. You knew about this?
Here's how it's going to work. Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
The people on the field will be robots. Okay? They will be controlled by the esports / Madden players that'll probably be in virtual reality. So it's like what they'll see in their virtual reality headset will be like the perspective of a player. And what they do and how they maneuver and control the bot will be what happens on the field. And so you'll see the big hits, you'll see the touchdowns, you'll see everything play out with robots, but it's being controlled in a safe environment by gamers.
How's that different from just gaming right now?
Hey, man.
Like, don't we already have that?
Because there's not the equivalent of like watching it actually play out on the field.
Yes, there is. I watch it on the screen.
No, that's digital, man. People want to see. You can't see the hits that way. I can't go into a stadium and watch the robots really get down. Like all those little dog robots that you see that are jumping, and it's like they're just gonna. What you're seeing now is the worst that those robots are ever gonna be.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. I saw this dude do the twist, like that same company that does the dog robots. They made one. It looks like a dude with a backpack on, right? And they started doing Chubby Checker the twist.
What do you think?
In 100 years, they're gonna be ruling us, man. Like
they're gonna be hitting.
There won't be like
they're gonna be hitting such a mean Dougie. In 100 years, it's gonna make your head spin. Just think about just dancing in general. Dancing in the 1940s versus dancing now. Everybody can do it, man. It just takes time, bro. That's where the NFL and NBA are going. And again, I'm okay with being the visionary. I'm okay with seeing it before everybody else sees it.
This reminds me of a time I was on Sports Nation with Marcellus Wiley, and we were talking about like there's some scandal in baseball happened, and Marcellus says like, see, this is why I have always talked about this as the only solution. And me and Michelle Beadle look at each other like, what is he talking about? Because he never talks about baseball. And then Marcellus looks dead in the camera and says, lasers. I don't even know what his point was after that. Like lasers.
I thought you were going to say like segregation.
No. Like,
they had it right the first time.
Hey, you might as well be at that point. We talking about lasers, man. You talking about robots on the field?
Robots on the field. I'm telling you, man, just be ready. Just grab your jersey ready.
So why wouldn't that be the fate of the NBA as well? Why do you have the NBA still having humans, but like the NFL, it's like, nah, we're gonna just use robots?
Because it's like, put it this way. Remember, you've learned about the Romans, right?
Yes.
And it was entertainment to watch, to put the human in there. And
gladiators.
To battle with the tigers.
Yeah.
Everybody showed up. They filled up the Coliseum.
Yep.
At some point, they were like, oh, man, this is I don't know if we should be having people fight tigers, man. You know what I'm saying? This is a safe. NFL's a contact sport. I think it's gonna be 200 years from now, which is fine. But that's what's gonna be what happens.
Hey, Romulus, I don't know about this whole gladiator thing, man. Like, what's wrong? People love it. Like,
look, you see the ticket numbers, man.
It's like, I don't know.
We sell this joint out every week.
People are talking. People
have takes. Is what I'm saying. There's another thing that you mentioned on this show. About NFL quarterbacks and black NFL quarterbacks specifically, and their quest to be
mediocre.
That was the measurement of success of whether the black quarterback has arrived. It's not the Lamar Jackson highest paid player in unanimous MVP. It's not the Patrick Mahomes, who's already a Hall of Famer and he's 17 years old.
Yeah.
It's not Jalen Hurts, who is the second highest paid player in the NFL. And it's not the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, who were the three top black quarterbacks drafted in this draft and quarterbacks overall. But I will say that we finally arrived. You know why?
What is that?
Josh Johnson has signed another contract with the Baltimore Ravens. And I won't call Josh Johnson mediocre, but Josh Johnson is our perennial backup. He is the black Josh McCown, who I've also played with. Let me read you the teams that Josh Johnson has played for since I believe it was 2008. I think his career began.
Do we have enough time in this segment?
Yeah, we do. We have. It's going to be quick. I'll read them fast.
Right.
Buccaneers, 49ers, Sacramento Mountain Cats of the UFL.
Yeah.
Browns, Bengals, 49ers, Bengals again.
Yep.
Jets, Colts, Bills, Ravens, Giants, Texans, Raiders, Washington.
Oh, man.
San Diego Fleet of the American Alliance Football League. The Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Wildcats of the XFL, And then the 49ers, Jets, Ravens, Broncos, 49ers again, and now Ravens again.
First of all, shout out to repeat business.
Shout out to running it back.
Yeah, man. Like, remember when we did that? That was good, man.
That was good.
Why did we ever stop?
5 stars on Google, run it back again. Hey, man, we liked you the last time we took this. So I'm hoping the only thing that needs to happen now is when Josh Johnson retires. He's a front runner for the former black quarterback to be a head coach. Quickly.
Oh, yeah. It got to be.
Got to be, right?
You know, like, first of all, you know how it is. If you play that many teams, you just know that many more people. Into an NFL stadium, and he's dapping up
everybody.
Like, because he knows
janitors.
Everybody. Because, like, dude, that's the whole trick to being, like, a great journeyman. I think, like, you have to be, like, Mr. Personality.
You have to.
Because that's why you get repeat business, right?
Everybody gravitates towards you. You identify with everybody in the locker room. You're basically a coach. You hang out more with the coaches than you do the players. You become the eyes and ears there. My favorite Josh Johnson story, he was Joe Thomas tells his story for the Browns. Joe Thomas had played with, like, 20 quarterbacks, right? Cleveland.
Right.
And like, the jersey, that was, like, all Joe Thomas protecting all those guys. And they had 3 quarterbacks go down in a single game. I think they had 4 in the roster. Josh Johnson had just signed on a Saturday. And he got there like the day of the game. And he dressed. And so in the fourth quarter, after 3 quarterbacks got hurt, he comes to the huddle. And he's like, all right, guys, look. He's looking at his wristband. And Joe was like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm Josh Johnson. He's like, Joe Thomas, nice to meet you.
No way.
All right, let's get into the play. And that's,
damn, man.
That's how they met.
It's a funny story, except for the fact where it's like there's murder about to happen here. Like they're coming to kill you, buddy. Like, damn, that's got to be the most stressful situation.
Yes,
to
easily.
Be the backup quarterback who doesn't know a single person or a play. Like to go out here and, like, again, as organized murder is standing on the other side of this line. Like, I can't. What could be more stressful than that?
Organized murder is a good way to put some of the games we played in Cleveland. It was tough. It was tough on us. So Jim Brown, speaking of Cleveland, has passed away. Legend, obviously. Yeah. Honestly, he has a claim probably for one of the best athlete in history. He, as an old-time player, we talked about this earlier, he's a guy whose athletic ability spans across any generation or era.
Yep.
I met Jim Brown a couple of times, obviously playing for Cleveland. And the first thing I thought was like, man, this dude's neck is so stiff. Like, you could tell he took a beating because he was like, man. I mean, he had
he quit early. That's one of the ones that's like, yo, he stopped his career short.
And back then, like, you know, it was obviously a different game. The game is like way safer now than it was back when Jim Brown played. But yeah, I mean, he had to have less than 100 degrees of vision.
You know, I'm in a group chat and someone shared the New York Times alert when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like Jim Brown, you know, civil rights icon, NFL great, dies. Also, domestic violence. I'm like, guys, like it doesn't have to be in the headline. I get it. Like, I'm not saying whitewash it, erase it, like sweep it under the rug, but like it doesn't have to be in the headline, man.
Right.
Like the guy just died, and he's done things that were like incredible. And by the way, again, like him walking away from the game was tied in part to like, I don't have to take from basically white people who don't value me or who just see me as a commodity or whatever. So, you know, and then beyond that, obviously one of the early, if not one of the first, like to go from the field to Hollywood, right?
Yeah,
like the idea, the thing that's very commonplace now, we see like everyone kind of crossing over. Like that wasn't a thing back then, and he did that. But like the civil rights stuff is huge. Like it's not just like, hey man, he picketed one time.
Right.
Like this dude was like in it deep. Like
he was on the forefront. He was on the front lines.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, original more than an athlete, right?
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Like so like to like I felt like you have to like recognize that part.
Mm-hmm.
And acknowledge the other stuff, but you can't put it all together. And look, domestic violence is awful,
of course,
and I'm not here to defend him for what he did, but I'm just saying, like, hey, man, like this dude did shit, man.
Yeah.
Like he did some shit.
Right.
Like, can we take a moment to take a beat to just kind of
Acknowledge that as
acknowledge that before we say like all the other stuff.
It's a different time. It's a completely different time in sports. It's a completely different time in society and how things get remembered and talked about. And to your point, it's very nuanced. Speaking of a different time, Micah Parsons, he's been pulling up to NBA games wearing a different team's jersey every time. Nobody has any idea who the hell this dude's favorite team is. I don't know if he knows.
Wait, wearing it over a button-up, man? I'm like,
it's just a bunch of things. Again, I don't know if he's a pioneer or if he's a lunatic, but I do think it plays to today's fan. I think today's fan, where it was like sacrilegious to be a fickle fan, or you jump bandwagon to the next. I think today they're like, yo, we going with the winners, baby. Like,
well, it's what it is. It's gambling and fantasy have made it so that people aren't fans of teams anymore. They're fans of players or things that are happening, right? Having said that, bro, at least like you knew what you were doing when you left the house. You knew where you were going. Like, why wear a button-up shirt and I'm wearing the jersey over like one of those Wall Street bros that came in after work and was like, yeah, I want to show people I like.
You care about the fashion. You don't even care that he's wearing different jerseys. You're just like, yo, put it together better.
I'm gonna tell you why, man. I learned this a long time ago. Like, when you are a fan of a sport, you say, I love, football, right? I love football. I'm a big football fan. Why wouldn't I want to watch someone do it at the highest level? Like, it's so weird. Like, when you think about it, it's so dumb to say because I'm from, pick a backwater town, right?
Charlotte.
Like, I've got to watch the Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't I watch like the Chiefs all the time? Like, they're doing this thing that I like at the highest level possible. Like, no, because of the geography, I have to watch someone doing it poorly.
So that's where I think the evolution is happening, because the fans of today don't have the ties to their teams like they used to, and that's something we're going to dive into more. So we talked about what we thought the future of sports fandom is.
Nah, you talked about it. Yeah. I just sat here and listened to your cockamamie.
Okay. So Micah Parsons is today's sports fan. You said it was about players and not about teams, because now kids, they no longer have connections to these teams the way that fans of yesteryear did. So, for example, in Charlotte, am I a Hornets fan? I don't know. Why are they called the Hornets? Why are the Lakers called the Lakers? There was a time in history where people knew that answer, and it meant something to them, and it's no longer there. So here is my new crazy future sports
here we go,
take.
Man. You got 3 in one show.
They just come off the top, man. It's like urine, man. I got them every day. There's no point in me holding them in. They're going to keep coming. The Charlotte Hornets would be worth more to Michael Jordan if their team name was called the Charlotte Jumpmen.
All right, so
the floor is yours.
So this is actually
okay. Now you're getting it.
Now you're on to something.
Now you see my genius.
There's an urban legend in the NBA that when the Grizzlies moved from Vancouver to Memphis, they wanted to change their name to the Memphis Express.
Why?
Because of FedEx. They thought and so they said
another take for you.
They submitted it, and they said within 15 minutes of Memphis submitting it, Atlanta submitted they want to change their name to Atlanta Coca-Cola. Like indicating that there was a standing offer from Coca-Cola. Hey, whenever they change the rules to allow you to just name yourself, the naming rights to the actual team, we're here and we'll pay. Right? And the league shut that down. Now, that story is even real.
You know why? Here's what's scary. Now, I feel like the Charlotte Jumpmen should be different because Jordan was a player. Basketball means more than just the sneaker. And I think it resonates with fans more than the Hornets or any random thing. Here's what's scary and why they would never let the brands, which, again, in 100 years when the NFL is robots and the NBA is co-ed, they're going to be corporations that are those teams. It's not going to be Charlotte anything. It's going to be the Google blanks.
The Bank of America.
The Meta banks. Or the Apple blanks. Yeah. Like, those are the only people with the amount of money to be able to compete with the amount of money the billionaire owners have.
The Apple iBasketball.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be regional. It's going to be like, the bite dance, so and so's of China, right? And to your point, but Jumpman is a basketball thing.
It is.
When LeBron gets the Las Vegas Kings and he gets Sacramento to change their name, it's going to create. LeBron is probably the 11th, probably 10 to 15.
What?
Biggest NBA franchise.
Oh,
from fandom. There are more LeBron fans.
I would say
than Hornets fans.
Yes,
there are more LeBron fans than.
I would say the 11th might be a little too low.
There you go.
I think he might even be higher on that list. Like
there you go.
If you took fandom, like let's do this. Count the ones that are bigger than LeBron. Lakers. Knicks. Celtics. I'll put Celtics in there.
Celtics. Bulls?
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
I don't know. Like, here's the thing. Like, I go around this country a lot. I travel all the time. I'll see a Lakers hat. I'll see like a Knicks T-shirt. Or like, I don't see too much Bulls stuff.
Yeah.
And
not without MJ on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like not without Michael Jordan, which again, so then we can talk about like what level franchise is Michael Jordan. Not the Hornets, but Michael Jordan himself.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The Charlotte Michael Jordans.
They are worth more. They have bigger fans that they are called the Jumpmen, and it is a nod to Michael Jordan of himself.
Now there is an opposite thing, which is saying that like his shadow casts so long over the franchise, like it can never. It's like, why is it no one can ever sign to Jumpman, the sneaker, and have their own legacies? Because you're literally wearing someone else's name. You'll never be Michael Jordan. So Russell Westbrook, Luka Doncic, Zion Williamson, all these guys, Carmelo Anthony, who we talked about earlier, they all wore the Jumpman. They all got their own signature shoe, but it's like
it never
not
quite,
really. No, you don't. You're still number two, right? Like at best. Whereas when you wear Nike, like you can create your own lane at some point because it's not a specific person. It's Jumpman is tied so closely to Michael that like I think you can apply that brand to things. So I can sell a Jumpman shirt, Jumpman sneakers, Jumpman backpack, but I can't apply it to people because at the end of the day, the people have to have
their
own thing. Otherwise, it's just it gets washed away.
I can't knock it. I can't knock it at all.
That's the best cockamamie idea you had today.
Thank you. I got plenty of them. Don't worry, man. Strap in. There's more on the way. Last thing we'll talk about. This is the Journeymen podcast, so we had to bring this up. DeMar DeRozan, Paul George were on his podcast, Podcast P, and they said there's a lot of sorry NBA players. I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your feedback there? 'Cause as a journeyman, I would imagine that I would be in that list of people that they would call sorry if you said the same thing about the NFL. I'm not offended by it at all. Them checks still clear, as my man Amin Elhassan says.
Yes, sir.
But give me your take on what you thought about that.
I think everyone has to always keep in mind like the context, right? Like the context is if you're Paul George, you are better than
compared to you, they're sorry.
90% of the league, right? So to him, yeah. And DeMar DeRozan, again, he's also an elite player. To them, there are a lot of guys that aren't good. Now, I don't think they're talking about rotation guys. I don't think they're talking about guys. Maybe they are. I don't know. Let me take that back. Maybe they are talking about guys who are rotation guys in this league. But again, it's always from the vantage point of. So, for example, would you say Shaq is rich?
Let me get back to it. Of course, he's rich.
Right,
yes.
Shaq's rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Jeff Bezos thinks Shaq is rich? Right? Like
everybody's broke to somebody.
Chris Rock had that bit where he's like, if Jeff, he didn't say Jeff Bezos, but it was Bill Gates. If Bill Gates woke up one day with Shaq's money, he's like, oh my God, like what happened? What went wrong with my life?
Right.
Whereas with us, we're like, oh my God, this is the greatest blessing ever. So it's all relative.
There you go. I like that. That's a great take. Everybody is sorry to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
That does episode of Journeymen. Shout out to the DraftKings Network. Shout out to Meadowlark Media. Shout out to my guy, Amin Elhassan, as always, here for joining us. Make sure you tune in next week. We're here every single week. So don't forget to journey back. And until then, Teach me how to Dougie.